Welcome to the Sensei Playbook, the ultimate how-to podcast for growing and amplifying your brand within the digital world's 3-second landscape. Join Bill Courtwright and Chris Snellgrove as they discuss the right tools and strategies for building the best online marketing strategy for your business. Tune into leading business leaders who share information and impart inspiration on providing smooth customer experience and successfully scaling your venture. This is your chance to achieve rapid growth in the highly competitive online market. Let's get this episode started with your hosts, Bill and Chris.
Welcome back to this week's episode of the Sensei Playbook podcast, marketing and sales strategy for the dealer world so you can do less and hopefully make more. We have an exciting episode for you today with Gordon Tormohlen, the reigning president of the National Independent Automobile Dealers Association. Current owner and operator of Good People's Automotive, he was brought up in the car business and his family's won more awards than I could ever mention. He's done it all, franchise, independent, and buy here, pay here, and I'm super excited to jump into it. So let's get started.
Okay, well, I was that rotten, snot-nosed little boss's kid that everybody complains about. My dad started in the car business in 1940, and so as a family, we're running now on in May, it'll be an 84-year tradition. But he had been a Hudson dealer and had a used car lot. Eventually, after running a Ford dealership for Ford Motor Company, wound up being a Chevrolet dealer, and then he sold out of that, and he and I became partners in a Chrysler store. I started in the business in 1973, mostly to spend more time with my dad because he was, back in that day, the grind was what everybody did. It was a 70-hour work week. And so I started, he couldn't give me a work permit. He paid me 50 cents an hour out of his pocket. And that's where I began, just washing cars and doing the janitorial. And it was a helper in the body shop. And I learned every task throughout the store. The thing that I'm always thankful for about that is that the guys that I was working next to were shop guys that figured, well, they were getting at that time probably $7-8 an hour, and they figured I was getting 20 and treated me that way. And on the other side, my dad was expecting high performance out of me. And so it created a work ethic that has driven me to this day. So that's kind of how it all started. We were in the Chrysler store for 20 years, had tremendous success, had the unfortunate luck of having a massive internal theft with 7 figures. So we wound up selling that franchise off, and what the guy didn't want out of it was my little itty-bitty buy here, pay here store. He wasn't going to deal with them people anymore. Heck with it, And so I came up here. We've been here 22 years now, exclusively buy here, pay here, and love it. Wow. Customers are wonderful. We actually make a better return on our investment than we ever did with the Chrysler store. So it's a nice, efficient, small operation.
Well, buy here, pay here is interesting because I think a lot of people jump into it. They think it's easy, but if you don't understand it, it can burn you.
It's the fastest way there is to go bankrupt. The joke in the industry is if we want to become a millionaire and buy here, pay here, start out with $2 million. I know I've never had that experience. We started, actually, I found out about buy here, pay here in a 20 group meeting when we still had the Chrysler store back in 1992. And we just kind of delved into it. And very quickly it took over my used car lot. So we had to separate it. And so we had the conventional used car lot with the store, with the new car store, and then we had a separate location for buy here, pay here. And it has been marvelously profitable. It supported us when we went through that period with the theft and everything else, kept us alive until we were able to remarket the Chrysler store and so forth. It's been a real blessing.
Tell us the meaning behind the name of your store today. I love the name.
The Good People Automotive? So it's Tormohlen's Good People Automotive is our DBA. The Good People moniker actually was something that we started doing marketing on back in the Chrysler store in, I think, about 1987. And we had all the sales guys had little pin-on buttons that said Good People. Most of them had them locked sideways. And we just made that our logo and stayed with it and built branding themes upon the Good People concept. So we employed good people. We created standards and job descriptions predicated around the kind of person that you'd want to do business with. Kind of looked like a Boy Scout creed. But I've got little cards we still hand out to our employees. You're going to be honest. You're going to be proactive. We're going to do this, this, and this. And if they get along with that and they internalize it, they're long-term employees. If they don't, well, they've been here for a job. And I've always found that to be the case. On the flip side of that, we are doing business with good people, period. Doesn't matter if they make $500,000 a year or $25,000 a year. Everybody sees themselves as a good person, and you need to treat them accordingly. And we find that when we have that kind of attitude toward our customers, we're far more successful.
Love that. What would you say your number one asset as a business owner is?
Without question, my people.
Human
I mean,
capital.
when we were at the Chrysler store, turnover in a new car store is every 6 months, sales guys were in and out. My rookie was 4 years in. Our people don't leave us. We do things that create a cause type atmosphere. So you're not just here for a job. You're just not here to make money. That's certainly part of it. But we're going to train you and support you. You have to give us your time and your skill set, and we will all win together. And when you have that kind of a mentality, everybody joins in, and it works marvelously. So we're blessed.
And there's a belief that if you take care of your people, they'll take care of your customers.
Honestly, do. When I was at the Chrysler store, I could walk out any given day and be gone for a week, and nobody'd even notice. And I think the same is true here. I'm to the point now where I leave for NIADA activities and trips and speeches and things of that nature. Nobody misses me. My son does bookkeeping and so forth and is quite adept at it. He steps in. He's also, of course, he's learned the ropes of the car business the same way I did. Started out washing cars and built his way up. So if he needs to step in and sell a car, he just does. And so it works really, really well. Same in our shop. I've got, we've only got 3 technicians, but 2 of them have been with us well in excess of 5 years. The other one's been with us for, I think, 3 now. And they just, they stay and take care of business for us.
So as the president of the Independent Auto Dealers Association, have y'all done anything centered around customer experience? Because certainly you know it firsthand. Customer experience is everything today. If you don't take care of the customer, somebody else will, and that's normally your competition.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's a market factor. The first item in our mission statement here at our dealership is to serve the transportation needs of our customers, which seems a little broad, but if they came to us, we need to honor that. The next thing is do better in competition because we operate in a global marketplace. So you've got people that are going to take your customer if you don't take care of them. The last thing is to make a profit. That sounds on the surface like, we're business guys, we want to make money, blah, blah, blah. And we do. I mean, if I invested my money in stock market, I'd expect a return. Everybody needs to get a return out of that. So my employees give their very best. They are skilled people. They care for our customers. They receive a commensurate pay package. Our customers came in wanting something, and they darn well better leave with what they wanted. That's how they profit. So if you do it well, everyone wins all the way through. That's just our mentality toward it.
So when employees, because I know nowadays I speak with a lot of dealerships and a lot of things that they harp on is, there's not a lot of good talent out there to hire. So when you're specifically looking for talent to hire, what are you looking for that makes that salesperson a good person in order to work for you?
It really starts with attitude here. I mean, more than anything else. And if I'm looking for somebody in the shop, I'll start a young person who's kind of a minimum wage type individual and so forth. And when they're slow, I look to see if they're bothering the service advisor for something else to do, or do they grab a broom and pick up, or do they just sit in the corner and grab their phone? Huge difference. Because if they're interested in that phone more than their career, there's only so much I can do to inspire that or help them through it. So we're looking for people that just have that attitude. The way I progress, the way I get better is I give value to my employer, and my employer will see that and give value back to me. And so it's not a common mindset. It's gotten far more difficult than it was, 20, 30 years ago. But there's still people out there. It's funny where you find it sometimes. 2 of my technicians are former customers. And they knew about us. They knew about our attitude, how we did things. I was impressed with the way they handled their personal business, even under difficult circumstances. And so when we had the opportunity to hire them, we did, and they've done marvelously well.
That's amazing. Yeah, you mentioned the phones. It's pretty incredible to me when I go into a business, some big company names, employees are looking at their phone instead of serving the customers. And it's a problem. I mean, it's a distraction.
I think one of the highest gain opportunities for young people today and this can really sound critical. I don't intend it to, but to develop a personality that's engaging, that can draw people out and make a connection is far more important. Unfortunately, nobody is teaching them in school how to do commerce, how to brand and how to build and how to make things for your life to improve your own lot in life. What they do want to teach them constantly, because it's easy, is tech. So even when they're doing online classes and so forth, when we had COVID and all the rest of it, they're plugged in and they're pushing on the screen and the keyboard, and they're disconnected from individuals. We see a number of people, our customers also, that just don't know how to make the connection. We've had to stop credit applications midstream and just put the pen down until they realize that they have to look up and pay attention to us. And it's a difficulty that I think we're gonna until we become wise enough to realize that this is just a tool, it's not your life, and put it back down and forget it. And it's gonna be a while.
It's amazing how, I don't know, just entranced we are with our phones and how much it's become a part of our lives. I mean, I was talking to Chris about this the other day. I left my phone somewhere and I swear I could feel it in my pocket vibrating. It was that phantom vibration. And that's when I was like, all right, I'm going to pretty much every night after 8 o'clock, I put my phone on do not disturb. I don't look at it. I don't talk to it. Instead of turning on the TV, find a good book to read, just to reset your brain. And, I feel like a lot of people are missing out on that nowadays. And they're just so tuned into technology that they're not focused on just those old fashioned values anymore.
If you study the psychology of addiction, you
Mm.
know, Apple and all these other folks have done a marvelous job of addicting us to these things. What am I gonna miss out on if I don't have it with me?
That's right.
You know what? I mean, maybe I'm just because I'm a fossil, it's a different thing, but I understand that you'll be okay without it. And I grew up in a day when I was at college and I'd call my folks once a week, and half the conversation was with my dad to find out what the buy list was because I paid my way through school buying cars at Flint Auto Auction in Michigan. And so we'd talk about that, and then I'd talk to my mom for a little bit, hang up, and what they didn't know didn't upset them. And I'd live just fine that way. You don't the constant contact can ruin you too.
And it's a distraction. Social media was designed to bring us together, and it's really driven us apart. And that's pretty telling when you walk into a restaurant, you look around and entire tables are on their phone and they're not
Yeah.
conversing. But that's the negative side. The positive side of social media is that it's very cost effective to brand yourself today. There's a
Oh, yeah.
opportunity among business owners to really get closer to their customers because you can engage with them for the first time ever.
Mhm.
Can-
Absolutely.
Yeah, we've always had push marketing until the digital age, and push marketing was we just push our message out there and hopefully it finds the right people. But now we
Yeah.
can actually engage, and that's the exciting part about it is it can be super cost effective.
Well, I'm glad you brought that aspect up, Chris, because yes, there's negatives to them, but also the technology is a tremendous tool for good as well. A lot of opportunities for engaging and direct engagement and targeting people that otherwise wouldn't know you even existed.
And personalizing your brand. The hot thing right now is user generated content. So we encourage our clients, get that, you don't even have to hire a professional videographer today. Pull your phone out, do the customer testimonials, do the walk arounds the car, get out on the lot and just show off your inventory. That's what's trending. That's what people like. If you go on social media, that's all you see today. And that's more effective than hiring that professional videographer that will charge you thousands of dollars to come out to your lot. You can accomplish the same thing with an iPhone.
You really can. There's a very successful dealer down in the Atlanta area. Jack Carter owns a place called Turn and Burn Motors. He's on the internet on a regular basis and just being a ham about everything he does.
Yeah.
It's like, here's your prepper starter kit, and he's pulling a gun out of the glove box of the thing, and making a joke out of the thing because somebody traded in a vehicle that had a military star on the door and everything else, but having fun with people all the way along it. I mean, and he's very successful because of that.
Yeah, we met him at GIADA's annual conference over at Stone Mountain. Great guy.
Yeah, definitely.
So let's shift the conversation to NIADA. What's going on with the organization? You've been a president since July of last year?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, so I've been on the board. This is my 12th year. So I worked up. I was a regional vice president, spent some time as secretary as well as treasurer, and then moved into the chairs as executive vice president, president-elect, and so forth. NIADA has gone through some changes in leadership. Just in my time there, Mike Lynn was in the process of retiring. Steve Jordan came on. Steve was a very sales-oriented, very magnanimous personality kind of guy. When he decided that he was going to move on to greener pastures, we hired Bob Voltman, who really wasn't the right person at that time. Bob was very detail-oriented and so forth and wanted to work on bylaws and things of that nature, and was at a time when vendors and dealers needed more. So Bob then decided to retire. I think he kind of saw that it wasn't the best fit ever. And we now have Jeff Martin as our CEO. Jeff was a longtime executive director for the state of Texas. And so he's well acquainted with the association from running the state down there and is doing a marvelous job. So we're doing some rebuilding on the things that had fallen off the priority map, our certified pre-owned program, certified master dealer, working on our 20 groups. These are all training programs, and that's one leg of the stool that are offerings for dealers in terms of training and education and things of that nature. At the same time, we're working on, there's a constant government pressure in terms of regulation and so forth. So our national policy conference takes place in Washington every fall. We spent some time on that. We're working with Federal Trade Commission and the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau to make sure that, reasonable dealers don't dislike regulation, but it's got to make sense and it can't completely crush their business. And so we're trying to make sure that they understand what we're doing there. And we're involved in a number of things, particularly with regard immediately right now to the CARS rule that the FTC is pushing forward, trying to get that to the point where they pull back and really listen to the feedback from the industry before they jump in and make a mess out of things. So that's our hope. Beyond that, we have a tremendous number of vendor partners and so forth that offer goods and services at a discount to our dealers. And we want to make sure that those offerings are available so that our dealers can be cutting edge.
Nice. And your annual conference, when's your next one?
That's June 17th to the 20th. I'll be at the Wynn in Las Vegas. Got a great rate, $199 a night, including resort fees. Yeah, it'll be a great event. So amongst the things that we do, we're having an industry meeting with NIADA leadership to talk about the CARS rule and some of the things that they're doing there and our relationship in general. We'll also be benchmarking speakers and topics covered, as well as looking for additional vendors and folks that might be of advantage to our dealers. So we're gonna be shopping, so to speak.
Nice. It's always a fun event. I wanted to pose this question because as EVs start to trickle down to the used car market, what do you foresee there? And to replace batteries, like what's your position on EVs?
I just don't think we're there yet, guys. I really don't. I have an economist friend up in Michigan, Dr. Timothy Nash. He works at Northwood University. And early on, when EVs were becoming a big thing, I'd been up there a number of times at their annual auto show. The students put on their own auto show every year. And they'd get keynote speakers that talk about electrification and so forth. And they see the market being 10%, and everything else. And it never even got to 1%. Well, now there's a push. There's government money. They're putting $7,500 on the hood of each car. That's not even including the amount of R&D money that they're giving the manufacturers and so forth. And for a while, they were a hot trend. Now we're finding out that they're not the best in snow. And, when cold weather hits, we got an issue. The thing that the Dr. Nash pulled up and showed me that I thought was very interesting was that at that point in time, and this is probably 2.5, 3 years ago, if you took the world's known supply of copper, all of it, times 7, you could get to 50% of market with EVs. So it's almost an unachievable goal.
Wow.
So if you take that in consideration and you see the other minuses with regard to weather, range anxiety, all the rest of it, they're working on that. They truly are. But it's understandable why consumers are not adopting. They're not for 3 to 5 years, well, longer than that, but not for 10 years in some cases. And they're not that hot a commodity anymore. And the inventories are starting to grow. From the independent side, I'm very wary of it. I've had some good luck with hybrids, where if a battery starts to go bad, we can replace cells and so forth. And my guys are trained well enough to do that. But a full EV, now I got to take it back to the factory store, and we're looking at thousands of dollars to replace batteries. At that point, the vehicle becomes disposable. I hate to be a skeptic, but I don't think we're there yet.
I honestly don't think it's being a skeptic at this point anymore. You see these different things coming out with, just like Chris was saying, with Tesla having problem in the snow and cars not opening and cars not starting. I don't think that we were, just like you said, ready for EVs yet. And I don't know if EVs are going to be the future. I honestly think that hydrogen is probably the way that everybody's going to lean towards, because we've just been I was reading an article that we're able to, as safely as we can, make energy out of it without, if someone crashes, it doesn't just blow up on us.
That'd be bad. That'd leave a pretty big freighter. But I think over time, I think you're right. I think hydrogen probably makes more sense. But let's not forget that we've got literally hundreds of years supply of natural gas and oil in our own possession on our own land that can be sold to other countries to pay off government deficits and all the rest of it. And we're pretty efficient with that. I mean, if you look at what our air quality was 50 years ago, we're better now by far than we ever were. And so I think that case is still out there. And then the readily available supply of fuel, when you go to a gas station, take 3 minutes to gas up, that's a pretty good deal.
It is interesting that most of the public transportations use the natural gas, but they haven't moved into the consumer sector?
Well, I think from a consumer standpoint, Chris, it seems like it's a little bit more difficult to deliver. You've got to have the fittings and so forth to put it in there. That's not something that your Aunt Martha can pull up and do it as self-service.
Right.
So I think that's something that they'll need to work out. If that turns out to be the market trend, there's certainly opportunity for it, and it burns cleaner. So there's a lot to be determined yet, and I think to Aaron's point, market will decide. Everything has to do with the marketplace. I mean, politics. You pick one politician you like, and they might be a doofus 2 years from now, but today they're the hot commodity. Okay. The same is true with EVs. They were a hot commodity, now they're cooling. And so the
Well,
marketplace eventually figures out where they want to be on anything.
people who are investing and trying to create these new technologies for us to be advanced on, that we need to take into consideration is exactly what Elon Musk did. He made it a pretty much an open source code to these schematics and allowed everybody to have access to the market, which is why EV has gotten to the point that it is at now, why Ford is producing more EVs than they are, gas vehicles at the moment. So I feel like if we can do that with another environment friendly technology, I think that'll be the way to go when it comes to all this. So that way one group isn't just kind of capitalizing on the entire thing. And to me, that's just not good for the consumer. The consumer needs to be able to have, to be able to pick all these different companies out, to be able to choose and, have that ability within the free market.
Choice is a really good thing. I mean, that's why they call it a free market, and you can do your research and so forth, and you have to have it available first. Yeah, Musk he's an interesting character, but he's a darn sharp guy.
So let's talk marketing AI. Any plans on using marketing AI in the independent world?
There are a lot of guys looking at it right now, and some have had some successes. Others are very disappointed with it. I think it's a little young yet. I think it's going to have to settle in first to see if it determines to be a good thing or a bad thing. I don't see how it could be bad per se, unless it's just plain misused to misrepresent people and so forth. But beyond that, I think it'll be a good tool, but it's young.
We were talking to a dealer today that uses it to write his automotive descriptions, his car descriptions.
Mm-hmm.
Have you used ChatGPT or any of those?
I have not at this point in time. We're tiny enough. I don't have a tremendous need for it, but I'm keeping an eye on it. It's intriguing.
Yeah, it's interesting. What else is happening on the independent association front?
I think the biggest thing, it's funny, it had the little check sheet here of things that we might talk about. And one of the things I put down was EVs and regulation. I think that sadly, we live in a time where particularly this government, more than others that we've had in the recent past, is really trying to manipulate the market to what they think it ought to be. And so they do that by regulation. And we've had some interesting conversations. I think NIADA as a whole has a pretty decent relationship with CFPB, surprisingly enough. But then I printed out a synopsis from one of our legal minds that had 10 things from the CFPB, and it made my blood pressure rise again. But it's things they're looking at. They want to look at auto finance and how it's being handled and fees and all the rest of it. I think their goals are noble, but they don't understand. This Federal Trade Commission with the CARS rule, it really could be a mess. And the thing that struck me the most when we had our national policy conference, which I would openly invite anybody, particularly independent dealers, to please come to, because it's a really great opportunity for your voice to be heard. Sat down and it's a 3-day series of meetings. First, internally, what's going on with the industry, how's the association doing, how the vendors doing, and so forth. The next day is alphabet soup. So we've got the Federal Trade Commission, CFPB, EEOC. There's always a number of regulators that come in. And the young lady from the Federal Trade Commission was touting the wonderful things they're trying to do. And one of the dealers asked her, because they were talking about advertising and transparency. Nobody disagrees with that, but he asked her a simple question. He said, well, if I advertise a car for, let's say, $79.95, and I would sell that car to anyone for that price, so we're good there. But now a customer comes in who doesn't have acceptable credit with the bank, and so the payment that I quoted isn't going to work. Instead, I have to pay a secondary finance company $1,200 to get that deal bought. Am I supposed to put that in the price? Because then I'd be violating your advertising rule. Or do I have to put it down here where it's going to be scrutinized as a junk fee? And she rambled on for half an hour and never did answer the question. So it illustrates how important it is for them to understand what the heck we're doing and how dynamic the marketplace is. And it's clear that they don't at this point in time. So those are the kinds of things, those relationships are really, really essential. And that's one of the things that NIADA is really working hard on.
Yeah.
What's one thing that you would tell consumers? Because if you read the CARS rule and you're just a normal, like everyday consumer like me, and you read the CARS rule, you're like, oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. What would you tell consumers that to help better explain to kind of get your point across from the dealership like standpoint?
Aaron, the thing that I've told consumers for, gosh, probably the last 35 years of my career, okay, is stop shopping based upon price. You scrutinize the vehicle you want, okay,
Yeah.
and everybody wants a good deal. Well, what exactly is a good deal? I mean, I've never met a person yet, honestly, define it. Because if it's a low payment, you can finance it for 96 months and get a low payment. Or is it, is it the interest rate? Well, that can be manipulated up or down. Is it the price on the car? Okay, the price has a hard cost, but if it's trade-in value, that can be manipulated. Shop for a good dealer. Look for someone who has an excellent reputation. Ask your salesperson questions enough to determine if this person is actually a career salesperson or somebody that's been there for 6 months and is waiting for an opening in another job someplace and won't be there to follow up and take care of you. You do your due diligence in terms of the service experience at that dealership. Talk to people, look at the Google ratings and read the bad ones and determine if the person just had a bad attitude or if it's a true bad service experience. If you do all of that ahead of time, that's really the due diligence of being a proper consumer, you're going to wind up happy. You needn't worry about all the forms and the things you're going to sign because you're going to get somebody who, in the interest of their own career path, is going to explain well exactly. They're going to present the features and the benefits and ask you to make a decision on extended warranty or the rust proofing or the topper and then the vehicle itself. They're going to offer you an opportunity to take the vehicle out and have an independent party inspect it. They will transparently show you everything they've done to put the car through the shop. And here's the things that I do in a little itty bitty buy here, pay here dealership. Certainly you could do that in a store that's selling 500 units a month just as easily. Okay. And when you're getting that kind of experience, you don't have a need for regulation or additional forms. Now, I understand that what CARS is trying to do with it and everything else. We've had many conversations over the years as a board with Federal Trade Commission and the CFPB about how we wished you could get the goofy fees out. But we specifically were looking at when a dealer puts an online ad in, say, an Auto Trader or Car Gurus or something like that, to get to the top of the page, they'll make their price just ridiculously inexpensive. And then in the mouse print with that ad, you'll see plus $3,995 reconditioning fee. We are completely dead set against that. And that's something that we don't want to see anybody do. That confuses consumers. It makes us all look bad because unfortunately we all get thrown into the same pot.
Those dealers that give good dealers a bad name.
Exactly. I've been in this business a long time. I've known literally thousands of dealers, and we all know that 1 or 2% that do that crazy stuff on a consistent basis and make us all look bad. And yet when you survey consumers about their last purchasing experience, they go, "Oh yeah, well I bought my car from Charlie and he just, man, let me tell you what he did for me. He's, and how many people you referred to him? Well, only 3, but that's the experience we want consumers to have, is one that they're so happy about it that, number one, they've received everything they wanted and then some, so they happily hand their money over to you to get that product and that service, and that they feel good enough about it that they tell their friends at the same time."
You can't pay enough for that. That's the best kind of customer to have. It
Yep.
does the talking for you.
Well, and they're available. You just got to treat them well.
Right.
That's the difference, I think, between a mindset of somebody that's going to be in the business for 2 or 5 years versus somebody that's going to make this a career.
Or how do you define success?
What? I'm a faith guy. All right. So success is a different animal for me than just climbing the hill and getting the reward and all that other kind of stuff. I think to be able to live a free and prosperous life where, out of my own self-interest, maybe originally, I bought a couple of cars and I flipped them on the side and I made a little bit of money, and then I started increasing my skills, and pretty soon I hired an employee, and that employee now is realizing his dreams while I realize my dreams. We're working together on it. And oh, by the way, my kids and my wife and everybody are well taken care of, and we're living a good lifestyle. And in the process, we built something that consumers come to because they get what they want too. And it's when all is said and done, I take my profits or whatever I've gained by living that lifestyle and I'm able to contribute to my community, to help others, to do some charitable things and have a positive effect on everybody that I come in contact with. That's a good life. I'll count myself a success when I get there. I'm working on it.
I think it was Zig Ziglar who said, if you help enough others get what they want, you'll get what you want.
Yeah, we do. Exactly. Love Zig.
He was great. I actually met him at a breakfast and got my picture taken with him. I was a big fan. So that was special.
I missed an opportunity to spend some time with him. We went down. I had a sales contest, and I took 4 of my sales people down to St. Louis where he was speaking, and we got there early, had some dinner, still were there early. So we're walking around the place, and we see this guy jogging. I kind of look awful lot like Zig, but dang, he was tall. Well, he didn't look that tall on video, so I never thought to say hi. But sure enough, that was him.
That was him. Yep.
He went for a run before he gave his presentation.
I also met Tony Robbins back in the day. I used to drive him around. I was a big fan of his too. So I was working for a limousine company. So I arranged to handle his limo time when he came to Atlanta. And we did that, I think 3 times. And so I got to interact with him personally. He's tall.
That's
7.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, he's a big guy.
A lot taller than me. That is for sure.
I'm 6'7" on the inside, but not on the outside.
Same. I wake up 6'8" every day. You touched on something about community. Chris and I and Bill, we all have this saying that we really utilize and we like to preach and kind of put into our work with these dealerships, which is we want to bring the community back to the dealership and put the dealership back in the community. And the best way to do that is to be able to support your community. And I think you already do that in a couple different facets. One, you're bringing on good people. They may not be the most experienced people, but they're good people who have great work ethic, who want to work, who want to learn, who want to be advanced. So you're giving that opportunity. What other things do you do within the community that really kind of sets yourself apart from the average Joe?
Aaron, I would tell you, I don't talk about that a great deal because it's not, it's the kind of thing I want people to just know about and so forth. Like, we've been in Freeport for 50 years as a family. And, over the years, we supported the Soapbox Derby group for probably 10 years. The Park District did a little Candyland ball where the week before Valentine's Day, fathers could take their daughters out to a ball. We did that on our showroom floor for years. You get 200 little girls running around your showroom floor. It just, oh boy, I'll tell you, it's funny. We've done that stuff. We sponsored art gallery things. We do scholarships for young tech students that are going to the local community college, things of that nature. So we're involved. We support the local Showtime group, which is the theater group through our high school, things of that nature. But a lot of stuff we don't even talk about. I adhere to the idea of trying to tithe our earnings from the dealership. Some years we go above, sometimes we don't get quite there. But I prefer to do it as personally as humanly possible. I remember years ago, I was 7 years old selling, a sparkled candles for our local choir group, and I hated it. You knock on the door and people would get all mad and slam the door on it, and never forgot that. And so when somebody is brave enough to come in here and want to sell me Girl Scout cookies or pancake tickets or whatever, I thank them for doing it, and we buy some whether we use them or not. We try and support people on a very personal basis that way.
That's awesome. You know what I do, Gordy? I coach them because when I open the door and they go, "Do you want to buy some Girl Scout cookies?" I'll go, "I will if you ask me the right way." And they look at me and I go, "You can't ask me if I want to. You have to say, which ones do you want? Do you like these or these?" It's the alternate choice close.
I don't know. I've got a daughter, and she's a marvelous character. She's got a selling personality if ever there was. But when she was, I don't know, 11, 12 years old, she was in Girl Scouts and she got her chance to sell cookies. And I listened to her because she was calling the relatives and so forth. And I said, "Karina, you have to do it differently than that. Just, pick up the phone and use your happiest voice possible and go, 'Hey, I'm selling Girl Scout cookies. How many boxes do you want?'" She looked square at me and said, "Dad, that will never work." 5 minutes later, I hear her on the phone. Sure enough, she did. And I knew I was in trouble when I had to sign a voucher to the Girl Scouts of America for $2,500 for the cookies she sold. We had those things all over our house, bagging them up ahead of time so she could deliver them. But and what a great experience for a young lady to gain the confidence to realize she can do that.
Wow. It's all in the approach. That's incredible. It's awesome.
It really is.
Well, my last question, Gordy, and then we'll wrap is it's a esoteric one, but what do you want to be known for?
I would love for people to just know I helped them at some point in time, whether it's somebody who's down on the luck buying a buy here, pay here car, or an employee, or folks that I just randomly come across. I want to bring a little sunshine to their day. I think that's the best way to go. I sure don't want them whispering my name in vain, so I got to treat them well.
That's awesome. Well, cool. It has been an honor spending time with you. Thank you so much.
Sounds like a plan. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate the time. It's been fun.
Thank you so much.
All right, Gordy, thank you very much.
That's all for this episode of the Sensei Playbook. May these strategies help you build a powerful business roadmap and dominate the online market.